Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode number 5 of the What the What podcast holiday season. I am one of your hosts, Eric Creeps, here to say that it's Turbo Time! And I'm here with my co-host, as always, Ashby Brain and Kyle Whitley.
Put the cookie down! It's Turbo Time!
Oh, poor baby.
What an accent. I can't do it. I'm not even going to try.
You should, though.
Somebody needs to wrap you in
Do it
chains.
for the fans.
No.
Do it for
No, I can't.
No.
No, not even a little bit.
Man,
It's Turbo Time.
disappointing. I know that wasn't a line from them,
No,
but it's just fun to
it is.
do your Arnold,
Well, you automatically puff your chest out. You're like, it's
remember
Turbo Time.
when you were younger, it was so like popular to do the
I'll be
Terminator.
back.
I'll be back.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Yeah.
It's like, I hadn't watched that movie as a child, but I just learned about it. Kenley Pool, because other people were
Other
saying
people were quoting it. I mean,
Yeah.
you like to do the accent. It's not just the phrase, but it's the
Sure.
accent that goes with it. So
He was probably either on like Tiny Toons or Animaniacs, like as a child, like, you know, a cartoon impersonation. And I'm like, haha, that's funny. I didn't realize it was a movie. Like, I didn't see Terminator as like a 5-year-old.
Here's what I love about Arnold Schwarzenegger is he's such a good actor and he's so well known and he's so famous now that not a single person has ever been like, so I mean, you can't like lose the accent, like you can't
True.
do another. You know what I'm saying?
no,
Like,
he's
like
Arnold.
every actor in the world can do accents, right? Like can do voices, like that's part of your repertoire. But no one once, especially in this movie, by the way, spoiler alert, looked at Arnold Schwarzenegger and was like, "So here's the thing: you're playing like a
you're playing Howard Langston,
all-American
All-American
dad.
man.
And an all-American dad, arguably, doesn't sound like the Terminator."
So we jumped
I don't
into
know.
my nitpick here, but so early on. But that's okay. Whoopsie. But no, I do have something else to take up with your statement. Arnold Schwarzenegger's a good actor.
I think he is.
so,
I think he
actually,
is in
yeah.
such a way that there's part of you that's like, he's
Arguably.
not. Like, there's part of you in the back of your mind that's like, Arnold Schwarzenegger is not a good actor. But it's the point that he's so good at what he does that you're like, oh, he's a good actor, like enough to get through.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So, like, I kind of liken him to The Rock, who's another, big personality. Like, he's not a great actor, but in the roles that he, especially over the past decade, that he's chosen, they accentuate his positives so much that you just enjoy him in those
I
roles.
guess maybe we should say strategic actor,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
like
that's good.
he's
Yeah.
been really good at staying in his lane and
He's not trying
just
to do some Shakespearean,
capitalizing on it.
some
right.
Shakespearean Hamlet, whatever,
Right.
or Macbeth
He's not
to the
Leonardo
extreme.
DiCaprio, but he's not trying to be Leonardo
Not trying to do
DiCaprio.
Oscar, Academy Award
Right.
winning, whatever.
Right. Just like The Rock
He's just
or-
either doing action stuff or fun kid stuff.
Yeah.
Where's the point in this movie, too, though? There's not once that I'm thinking of him as his real person. Like, oh, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger is the dad.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that.
He's
like,
playing the role of Arnold as dad.
yeah, like,
He's
I
not
don't even
playing
question
Howard
it.
Langston. He's playing. No, this is Arnold.
This is Arnold.
who is a dad in this movie.
Yeah, this is just him, this is the movie based around him as if this was his family. Like, and I don't question that. The fact that he sells mattresses, I'm okay with. Like, this is what he does when he's not lifting weights. Like, he's just trying to find a good job to support his family. And now he sells mattresses. Like, I'm convinced the entire time. So much so that, spoiler alert, maybe one of your fun facts, but in the very beginning when he's taking multiple phone calls, like, and answering the phone and somebody slides him a contract to sign, he literally signs Arnold Schwarzenegger on the contract.
Oh wow.
Like, his name is signed there. Like, it's not Howard Langston.
Look, don't worry about it.
No, I think it's great that it's just like, not one of us were like, that's not the name of your character.
Meta.
We're like, no, that's who he is.
Well, before we jump all the way to the movie, let's go ahead and welcome everyone to the What the What podcast, where we know you want the Turbo Man action figure with the arms and the legs that move and the boomerang shooter and the rock and roll jetpack and the realistic voice activator that says 5 different phrases, including "It's Turbo Time."
No, come on, the accent.
It's Turbo Time.
There you go.
Accessories sold separately.
Batteries not included.
Please subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or wherever it is you get your podcast. And, of course, rate and review us 5 stars only, positive vibes only. Yes, 5 stars. We don't want any of those 1-star reviews like we were some kind of knockoff Turbo Man.
That's right, guys. It's Christmas time. Don't be like that.
Where there's assembly required. Come on, give us 5, please. Thank you. Did you really just shake bells at the mic?
Oh.
She did. It's Christmas time.
Oh my goodness!
I told everyone I would come thematically prepared to every episode,
Wow.
and this episode is Jingle All the Way.
Yes,
I love
that's
it.
amazing.
Thanks, I love it.
That's crazy enough. The movie has nothing to do with jingles all the way, but
Right?
but it does now with your
It
wrist.
mentions it so many times in the movie. They
Do they?
Yeah, they mention like Jingle Bells, Batman Smells was
Okay.
the password.
Okay.
Anyway, please also follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram at What the What Media.
All
one word.
All one word.
All one word. And find us on Twitter at WTW_media. Now the accent's just going in and out.
Keep going, Eric. Yeah,
All sorts
just
of accents.
Take it
Through
home.
no fault of my own, it's just natural at this point. On today's episode, we're taking a deep dive.
Deep.
Deep.
Sorry, I got
dive
water. Deep dive.
into the 1996 Christmas classic. Well, classic? Christmas movie. Jingle All the Way. Now, this is your spoiler warning. If you haven't seen Jingle All the Way, you're being warned. Spoilers incoming. Although, if you haven't seen it, I don't know if we should share this or not, but Kyle found it on YouTube with ads.
Yes,
Yeah.
so it's not even like somebody illegally put it. No, YouTube has it up there, and you can watch it with ads.
Yeah.
So Eric, I think, had to
All
rent it.
official.
I rented it through Amazon, which I'm going to talk about that in a minute.
I have it on DVD, and I was literally like, I'm not good. Well, I was like, instead of going to get my DVD player right now, let me at least see if there's like behind the scenes things on YouTube that I can watch first. And so by typing in Jingle All the Way, that was the first thing that came up. And I was like, well, we'll see how this works. And it's just like every other thing on YouTube. After 5 seconds, you can skip the ads and just keep watching your movie. So,
Yep. That's how I experienced it.
Is it also on Netflix?
no.
No.
Wow.
I searched all of the major streaming things and couldn't find it. And that's when I resorted to YouTube.
So if you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube with some ads.
For free.
For free. So go check it out. And then come back to this podcast because we're about to tell you what happened. Ashley, take it away.
Okay, we haven't done this in a while, and this is totally dry. So it's a dry run. Here we go.
Dry run.
Workaholic Minneapolis mattress salesman Howard Langston lives with his wife Liz and 9-year-old son Jamie, but is unable to find time for his family and often put in a bad light by his neighbor, divorcee Ted Matlin, who harbors unrequited feelings for Liz. After missing Jamie's karate class graduation, Howard resolves to redeem himself by fulfilling Jamie's Christmas wish of an action figure of Turbo Man, a popular television superhero. Despite Liz actually having asked him to buy one 2 weeks earlier, which Howard forgot about.
Turbo Man.
On Christmas Eve, Howard sets out to buy the toy, but finds that every store has sold out, and in the process develops a rivalry with Myron Larrabee, a postal worker father with the same ambition.
In desperation, Howard attempts to buy a figure from a counterfeit toy brand, which results in a massive fight in the warehouse that is broken up when the police arrive. Howard narrowly escapes arrest by posing as an undercover officer. Exhausted at his failure and out of fuel, Howard goes to Mickey's diner and calls home, intending to tell his wife the truth. Jamie answers the phone but keeps reminding Howard of his promise to be home in time for the annual holiday wintertainment parade.
That's a great name for
It
a
is.
parade.
It really
Great
is.
job.
Well, how have they not stolen this for something?
Kinley
bigger?
Parade needs to be renamed.
The Holiday Wintertainment Parade.
Yes. Losing his patience, Howard yells at Jamie, after which he feels guilty and depressed after Jamie scolds him for not keeping his promises. Howard finds Myron at the diner and they share their experiences over coffee.
And other drinks.
Yes, while Myron tells Howard of his resentment towards his own father for failing to get him a Johnny 7 OMA for Christmas. A radio station advertises a competition for a Turbo Man doll. The ensuing fight between Howard and Myron results in the diner's phone getting damaged, forcing Howard and Myron to race to the radio station on foot, where the DJ tells them the competition was actually for a Turbo Man gift certificate. The police are alerted, but Howard and Myron escape after Myron threatens the officers with a seemingly phony letter bomb. Officer Alexander Hummel, whom Howard has run into twice already, investigates the package, only to have it detonate. Detonate is the right word. Much to the men's shock.
Sorry, I'm just counting how many federal laws have been broken here.
Multiple.
Impersonating a police officer.
A dozen. Around dozen.
Bomb threat, bomb actually didn't. Anyway.
Right.
Upon returning to his Suburban, Howard finds it stripped by car thieves with Merry Xmas spray painted on the windshield. He returns home in a tow truck, only to find Ted putting the star on his Christmas tree. You don't put a star on another man's
No,
Christmas tree.
never.
I'm sorry. In retaliation, Howard attempts to steal the Turbo Man doll Ted bought for his son Johnny. very safely nestled under the tree, by the way. But he can't bring himself to steal from a child. Unfortunately, he is caught in the act and left alone while his family goes to the Christmas parade with Ted. By the way, he was caught by a reindeer.
That's true.
A very angry reindeer.
Very angry reindeer. After letting Jamie and Johnny out of the car, Ted attempts to seduce Liz, but she violently rejects him by hitting him with a thermos of eggnog. And that Ted, non-alcoholic eggnog, as he said, that Ted offered to her. Meanwhile, remembering his promise to Jamie to go to the parade, Howard decides to attend as well, but he runs into Officer Hummel again. The ensuing chase leads to Howard hiding inside of a storage room where he is mistaken for the actor portrayed in Turbo Man and dressed in the highly technological costume. As Turbo Man, Howard uses his chance to present a limited edition action figure to Jamie, but they are confronted by Myron dressed as Turbo Man's enemy, Dementor.
That's right, folks. Harry Potter in this place.
The Dementors.
Expecto Patronum.
Despite Howard's pleas for Myron to stop, a long chase ensues involving even a jetpack flight. Myron acquires the toy from Jamie but is cornered by police officers while Howard saves his son. Howard reveals himself to his family and apologizes for his shortcomings. The police return the toy to Jamie as Myron is arrested, but Jamie decides to give the toy to Myron for his son, proclaiming his father as his true hero. We never find out what happens to Myron. He's probably in prison still.
I'd imagine that Turbo Man doll is in like evidence locker somewhere.
Yeah, probably. The crowd from the parade carries Howard for being a hero, while Myron and Liz and Jamie look on and smile. End of movie, right? No. MCU, eat your heart out. There's a post-credit scene that
I missed it.
I didn't know about it. Oh my goodness! This is the first
And I'm
time
sure it's referenced in the sequel. No.
Later that night,
The sequel that shall not be named.
It didn't happen.
We're going to talk about it, but I don't want to talk about it. Later that night, Howard finishes decorating their Christmas tree on Christmas Eve. I mean, what's the point of that?
People
What?
do it, and I
What?
can't understand how.
What? I don't get
It's
it.
the same people that take their tree down on Christmas. Like,
I mean, at this point, why put a tree up at all if you're putting it together the day before Christmas?
Right.
Eve?
We're going to keep it up for like a week.
By putting the star on top. However, when Liz, she makes a comment like, if you'll do all this for our son, I'm wondering, what did you get me? And he shockingly realizes that he forgot to get her a gift.
Of course.
So,
Of course.
So Howard's divorced soon. Some information about the film. Jingle All the Way, 1996 American Christmas family comedy film, directed by Brian Levant, stars Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sinbad as two rival fathers, workaholic Howard Langston and postal worker Myron Larrabee, both desperately trying to purchase a Turbo Man action figure for their respective sons on a last-minute shopping spree on Christmas Eve. The film's title is borrowed from the lyrics of a popular Christmas song, Jingle Bells. Inspired by real-life Christmas toy sellouts for such items as the Cabbage Patch Kids, the film was written by Randy Cornfield. Producer Chris Columbus rewrote the script, adding in elements of satire about the commercialization of Christmas, and the project was picked up by 20th Century Fox. Originally, this is interesting, because delays to Fox's reboot of the Planet of the Apes allowed Schwarzenegger to come on board, Chris Columbus opted to cast Sinbad instead of Joe Pesci. My goodness.
well, when they have relations, because was he the director for Home Alone?
Home Alone, yeah.
He was,
So,
yeah.
I thought that was interesting. We could have had Joe Pesci in.
Yeah,
in that
I
role.
don't think that.
I don't think it would.
I don't think it would have worked.
No, I can't buy Joe Pesci, especially him being in two other Christmas films before.
Right.
And he was a out and out just bad person.
Right.
I don't think I would have bought him as a dad.
Yeah.
A caring dad wanting to get a whatever.
Right.
But Jingle All the Way was set and filmed in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul at a variety of locations, including the Mall of America. Upon release, Jingle All the Way grossed $129 million worldwide, received generally negative reviews from critics because they have no heart. And in 2001, Fox was ordered to pay $19 million to Murray Hill Publishing for stealing the idea for the film, and the verdict was overturned 3 years later. Jingle All the Way is the third and final collaboration between Sinbad and Phil Hartman after Coneheads and Houseguest, and it was the last film featuring Hartman to be released during his lifetime. In 2014, the film was followed by a sequel, Jingle All the Way 2, starring Larry the Cable Guy.
No.
And that's it. That's the last time we will mention that today.
Yeah.
I'm going to mention it again. I'm just curious why. Let's jump into our questions here. Did you like this film, and does it hold up 25 years later? Who would like to go first?
Being like the child of the group, I will go and say that yes, I still love this movie. I feel like it's one of those things we've talked about before in the past. You have to put your nostalgia goggles on a little bit, but I want to say you just got to put your Christmas goggles on, because I feel like there's this thing across the board with Christmas movies that we will watch every year, no matter what, because there's somewhat of a Christmas like relation to our childhood there. It doesn't mean that the movie's great or that it translates now to be just as great of a movie. You know, something like Home Alone, still a great movie regardless. This one, not so much, but I feel like for me, watching it as a child, I remember so much of this being just like it. For us, it was Power Rangers. This is equivalent of Power Rangers. Turbo Man is modeled after a Power Ranger. His whole deal was modeled after Power Rangers, his villains and everything. So I remember wanting something so drastically bad and my mom making that list on, Thanksgiving so that on Black Friday, her and all like my aunt and my grandma, they're going hardcore nonstop all day as long as they can shopping on Black Friday first to find those gifts that you really wanted, your child really wanted, to make sure you're on Christmas Eve out there trying to find your child or your gift. But either way, so it hit close to home for me. I do remember seeing this as a child in theaters, and I feel like that's another thing that is, it just has a connection to me. The same way there's like that box set or little shelf you have of Christmas movies that like I'm going to at least watch all of these once this Christmas. Multiple ones I'll probably watch 10, 20 times. The other ones maybe I'll watch once or so. I'd say I'd probably watch this one a couple times, maybe compared to the other. But for me, it holds up enough that I would love to share it with Sky to see it. I definitely think there's some things that don't quite work in this day and age compared to back then in 1996, I think is when it was released. So, but that's where I feel about it. Here's my timer. My bell went off.
So this was literally this week was the first time I've seen this movie since I watched it originally in the Howe Theater back in 1996.
Yeah. So what were your thoughts after seeing it first time?
Well, it's so interesting to watch this on Amazon Prime because if you pause the movie, and I had to several times, I watched this in little segments. They tell you like little, all the actors in the scene, and then they tell you fun facts like or little goofs or whatever. Like for example, this was like a goof when Ted is seducing Liz in the minivan. The rearview mirror has been removed. Like just something like little
shot.
interesting facts. So there's part of me that's like wants to go back and watch it on Amazon Prime again. Just pause it every 5 to 10 seconds to see what new things you can learn. So I thought that was really interesting. This was a fun movie. To me, I mean, it's when you think of your favorite Christmas movies, you go to your standbys: Home Alone, Home Alone 2, Santa Claus, Charlie Brown Christmas, Elf. It's a Wonderful Life, Christmas Story, stuff like that. And
Christmas Vacation.
Christmas Vacation. This is not a movie that will make anybody's top 10, I don't think. Well, maybe top. Well,
I'm about to say 10's kind of large.
10's kind of large. Definitely not anyone's top 5. But it's an enjoyable one. It's something I would definitely put it in the rotation. I told Ivy, she was like, "You're watching this without me?" I was like, "No, I'm watching this for research. I'll watch it for like enjoyment later this Christmas season."
I love how we have a difference.
This was for like the pod. This is for work.
This is for work.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it. I thought young Anakin Skywalker was a fun child actor.
That's where I know him from.
Yes, that was Jake Lloyd.
I didn't do any due diligence, if you can tell.
Lloyd, 3 years before.
I was like, this kid looks so familiar.
I kept being like
3 years before Episode 1, Phantom Menace. So.
I kept thinking, that's the kid from Big Daddy. He can like wipe his own butt, and it's like, wait, no, that's not him.
That was not him. No. I do feel like it holds up 25 years later for no other reason than the fact there was a post-credit scene, and they're all the rage now. I mean,
it was ahead of its time.
Well ahead of its time there. I think the ideal of the over-commercialization of America is a theme that will stand the test of time. Definitely, that scene where they open the doors and they just trample over the poor employee. I felt bad in that moment. Like it was probably funny to me 25 years ago. It's horrific now because people have died in exact situations like that.
Yeah.
All in search of
Yeah.
TVs and toasters and
I was like, man, I'd
people
really
being
love to
elbows.
say that all of this is played up for like the Hollywood effect, but
No,
this is
no,
all very real.
realistic. So I think that definitely it holds up if in a sad way. But as a Christmas movie, thumbs up. I mean, I'd watch it again, and I'd watch it every year now that I know how much I enjoyed it. So, Ashby, what about you?
I remember enjoying this film as a child, I think. I probably would have never watched it again if it hadn't been for doing this episode, because it just didn't stick with me like other Christmas movies I watched as a child for whatever reason. It's probably not in my top 20 favorite Christmas movies. I don't think it's a bad movie, and being forced, if you want to say that, to watch it again, I was like, oh, there are actually parts of this that are kind of enjoyable. But it didn't make it into my personal like sphere of influence for whatever reason.
Makes sense. I mean, I will say, in my opinion, this is the best Christmas movie with the word jingle in it. Definitely better than Jingle Jangle.
Yes, I will agree with that. The Netflix was a Netflix last year, right?
Yeah. Y'all hyped up Jingle Jangle.
I don't know. I really enjoyed that.
It wasn't a Christmas movie though. That's the thing that bummed me out. Like it was just.
I mean, yeah, but it was so
time.
delightful. There was snow on the ground.
I just think of how you like singing things, so I'm like, oh, Erica,
and
love
I love
this.
musicals.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was delightful.
My expectations were much different, and I think that's the reason I didn't enjoy it.
That makes me sad
I
for you.
expected a really good Christmas movie, and it was marketed as such.
I get that,
and it wasn't. So, I mean, it can definitely make a controversial Christmas list. I wonder if we should do that at some point this year. But yeah, I like Jingle All the Way.
I'll jump in and just say too that I think some of the things that still make it relevant, and I mean, I know this is the topic later, but as I was watching it, I was making notes in my phone yesterday, I think. And there's a lot of it that reminds me of the beginning where you literally start with a dad that's a workaholic that overworks. It's very similar to how the Santa Claus starts, where his dad is working, but his dad's actually partying versus this one.
I love those movies.
Yeah, like this, his dad is, no, I'm still working. I'm still on the phone. It's not me having a party and running late. It's me.
Remember, you're my favorite customer.
Yes, I can't put the phone down. You want 25 mattresses? Great. You don't like the color? We'll fix it for free. Like, I get that because my dad was a salesman, and so I remember many vacations him like stepping out on the like balcony to like make phone calls for work or like things like that. And so I remember that, and don't get me wrong, like my dad was amazing and like great, and I'm very appreciative of everything and the hard work he did. But I remember seeing this and being like, I don't want to be that dad. Even as a child, I was like, I don't want that. Even now, especially with a child, I'm very much still like, I don't want that. Even if for no reason at all other than, I also don't want creepos like Ted sneaking in on my wife and my daughter.
Yes.
And so, I don't know, there's a lot of random things I like. Something I think that still holds up now is Jamie's bedroom. Is literally Marvel everywhere. Like there's a giant Captain America painted on his wall. His bed sheets are Marvel. There's a Hulk mask on the wall. Like there's literally everything everywhere. Like I would have loved his room as a child.
This is like
Still
back
would.
in the mid-90s where Marvel was broke, so they were just excited for they probably didn't even charge for
Sure.
it. Like, free publicity, we'll take it.
Yeah, and so the fact that he's like has his own little art table, very much hit me from the 90s. Like I'm sure kids still draw and do things today, but we didn't have the internet. We didn't have like these. We had video games, but not like this.
We did these things called activities.
Yes, and his room is set up for activities.
So many activities.
Yes, and so the fact that his dad comes in and they spend an evening drawing together, like after, of course, the dad's like screwed up and he's made up for it. But I just felt there's a lot of things like that, and I did also learn from this and also from Family Matters. I'm never like if Sky wants something really bad for Christmas, I'm going to go ahead and get it. I may pay more for it on Amazon and getting it shipped to me. But if I've learned anything from Turbo Man or Freddy Teddy from Family Matters, you don't wait until the last minute to try to get these things.
That's right.
No. I'm going to go ahead and skip ahead to our third question. We'll get back to the question in between a little bit. What worked the best for y'all in this movie? And I can start if y'all need me.
Sure.
Phil Hartman.
Amazing.
Was a treasure. He was so good at everything he did. My first experience with Phil Hartman was actually on The Simpsons, where he played. He played Troy McClure. Hi, I'm Troy McClure. You may remember me from such films as Christmas 8 and Christmas 8 Goes to Summer Camp, or whatever. He was also the lawyer. I can't remember the lawyer's name, but he was also the monorail guy. He played just a few different characters on The Simpsons. So smarmy and just. But my first real life him in an actual movie was probably this movie, but I didn't realize it. But from the movie Small Soldiers, which was released after his death, and he just plays this stuck up like I'm better than you, and I'm gonna just be all cheery about it character so well. And he wasn't really the villain in this movie, just more of a minor inconvenience, or minor plot point, inconvenience here, but he just did it so well. He did so well with these characters, and I hate that the world missed out on some of his comic brilliance since his passing 20 plus years ago.
Because he passed away 2 years after this, I think, or after at least anyway.
Yes, and
not to jump into it, but it's the same thing.
Is that the guy who played Ted?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure that
Like-
I'm on the right page.
I was thinking about it too because you start the movie and you already hate Ted.
Yeah.
But I hate Ted because I know who Ted turns out to be. If you try to go back and watch it with a little bit of a clear mindset and not think so much about what you know about Ted, there's parts of it where he honestly seems like a somewhat innocent dude that really loves his son. And I do think he really loves his son. I think there's that there. You have all these ladies like hitting on him at the game.
All these ladies.
And he has like facial things that make it seems a little creepy, but beyond that, it's also like this isn't him necessarily going after the ladies. The ladies are coming after him. So you can read it one way or the other if you don't know how much of a creep he really is later.
I mean, if you want to really dive into it, he can be early on. He can be a very sympathetic character because
He can.
He went through a divorce. The kid staying with him for Christmas, and so I don't know if he has full custody. Who knows what happened to his wife? His wife might have been a really bad parent. Who knows? I don't know that.
Well, the first time we see him talk to Arnold, like in the driveway with the reindeer, a lot of the conversation isn't so much Ted being like, I'm snarky and everything else. He literally says one of my favorite lines of, you can never make a kid's Christmas too magical.
Yeah.
And it's like, and that's not you being fake. That's just saying like, I really want to do something else for my kid. And he's also like, it may get icy later. You may want to put some chains on your tires.
Well, yeah, and there's a part of me that is like, is he being genuine there, or is he doing all this because he
Sure.
wants to win his son's
Yeah,
love
see-
affection, you know?
Well, and also the way that he ends up like being towards Liz later
Yes.
is just like uber problematic, and it's
That's what I
hard.
mean.
Like that colors all
Everything
of-
else.
right? Because then I'm like, okay, well, is he being sincere, or is this all like a very calculated? Because the other thing is that when like he's being really nice about the cookies and stuff and like being the best dad.
Yes.
And then the minute she exits the room
And he burns himself?
He burns himself and then he gets mad. He's like, you kids quiet down. Like he gets angry.
Yeah.
Well,
And so
there-
you're like, well, is he a different dad behind closed doors?
Sure.
Possibly. And there's a scene that makes me think he just feels inferior to Arnold's character.
Right.
Where, like, she's like, Ted, can you drive us to the parade? Because, she's just mad that Arnold tried to steal the Turbo Man doll or whatever. And he says to her, you can't punch your way out. You can't, lift your way out of this one.
Right.
kind of
Yeah.
refer
You
to,
can't
like,
bench press
Yeah,
your way
press
out
your
of
way
it.
out. It's
Yeah.
like, they haven't really mentioned the fact that he lifts weights or anything. That's just a shot at his physique.
Yes.
That's out of left field. So,
Yes.
For a Christmas comedy or whatever, probably too deep of an analysis. But it's like, does he have issues where he feels like, oh, this is how I'm better than you, and I need to point out every way I'm better than you. I'm
Right.
going to point out that, hey, you
Right.
don't have chains on your tires because I want you to know that I would have done that, and therefore I'm better than you. But anyway, Phil Hartman
But he does a great job where you're
does
like,
a fantastic
yeah.
job. being
Yeah, he
a-
does. He
just a
does.
slimy, hated kind of guy.
Yes.
So, what worked the best for y'all?
I'll let you go, Asprey. Unless you want me to go, then I'll go.
I mean, I don't want to say nothing because I did not enjoy watching the movie. I just can't really pinpoint. I mean, I don't know.
I'll jump into this, and I feel like you can relate to it some, is where is realistic to me. Maybe not every little thing, but the solid premise of this, especially for the time period, and I mentioned a little bit ago, but it's very much how the world was then, especially. We didn't have Amazon to get on and catch all the deals. We didn't have Walmart already putting Black Friday deals out now for this. Like, if your child wanted something for Christmas, like a special toy, you literally had to go out and find it. And even in, when you had Toys R Us and KB Toys and all the other places that stocked up on toys, you still didn't necessarily guarantee that you were going to find this toy. Because if it's the toy of the year, everybody's looking for it. The same way, like, Buzz Lightyear is a thing, Cabbage Patch dolls. Furby became a giant thing that everybody wanted. My sister didn't want one, but she got one because everybody else wanted one so much. My grandma thought she probably wanted one. But, like, Tickle Me Elmo came out the same year that this movie was put out. And I remember that was the first time as a child seeing anything on the news. I didn't watch the news, but my parents would watch it while we were getting ready for work or when we go to school. And I remember like that being a thing of our childhood was Tickle Me Elmo was not able, you couldn't find him anywhere. But everybody wanted one. Like I didn't want one. I was out of that age bracket. But it was the toy of the year that nobody could find. And there's a difference part of it too where as an adult you think of it's just a toy. It is what it is. But to realize, like, your child, that means something very much to them. Like, it's not so much like, this is you showing me your love for me. It's just, if my child really wants this one thing, you want to do your best to get it. So I can understand that. Another thing that was simple, but it reminded me, especially when we talked about the Power Rangers thing, is while he's hunting for Turbo Man, you can find billions of boosters everywhere, and nobody wants booster. I remember as a child, like, you could be looking for the Green Ranger in any store, couldn't find him, but you could find a million, like, putties or villains or whatever from the Power Rangers.
Right, of course.
Same way with, like, Ninja Turtles. Like, you could find all sorts of crazy versions, but the one thing you're looking for was, like, a needle in a haystack to ever find. So I think they did a good job of that by not just saying there's this one toy that, you know, you can't find anywhere, but they also include the fact that there are toys from this series you can find, but it's not the main thing that everybody wants. And let me see. One thing that worked best for me, too, is we talked about a little while ago about how Arnold's acting is and just all of the action movies he's been in where he does great, but he also does some comedy and stuff great. There's the scene where we talked about real quick in the synopsis of he's in the warehouse full of crooked Santas. They're all like, you know, he's gotten screwed over. In the midst of this, the police bust in, and it just so happens he bends over and grabs a police badge. But in that split second, he is Arnold Schwarzenegger, the action movie star, that when he comes up, like, you know,
noticed that.
I've been doing this for years, and you've ruined, you know, all this, the sloppiest, you know, work I've ever seen.
Yeah.
100%, you're like, I get it. Like, this is not a man faking. Like, automatically, like, I take him dead serious. And their reaction to it, you could have other people in this scene, like, you know, somebody else, like, I don't want to, like, spoil too much, but, like, Tim Allen or anybody else, you wouldn't take that as serious. You'd be like, how in the world are these police officers falling for this? He stands up and does that. You immediately believe he's real. They believe he's real. He walks out the door, and the guy out there doesn't question him a bit. They're like... So I think he was able to blend that in and work it well, where they were able to throw it in to be like, don't forget, he's this huge action star, but they didn't go over, you know, he's holding people up with, you know, missiles trying to buy this toy. Like, they didn't blend it that much, but I don't know. That's what I liked.
Whatever happened to Sinbad? Like, he was so great in this and in the movie First Kid.
He was, yeah. And no.
He was in Coneheads.
Yeah.
And, some other things. But
I was thinking Blank Check. That's Juice.
That's Juice, yeah. You know, I remember him specifically from this movie and from First Kid. Like, those are my main two, and I really enjoyed him. Whatever happened to him? Like, did he fall off the map or something?
I don't know. Has anyone looked at his IMDb page lately?
He has an IMDb page.
He has an Instagram, because I literally tagged him in a picture as we got started, and it said Sinbad something, but I don't remember what it is now. I did make a note while watching it, is there's probably a generation of kids now, though, that don't know who Sinbad is, one. There's a chance they may not know who Arnold Schwarzenegger is, other than he used to be some big muscular actor.
He was on Celebrity Apprentice.
See, like, but for us as kids, even if we didn't see Terminator, we didn't see other stuff, you still knew
who he was.
Who he was
all over the 80s and 90s.
He was, yeah.
I mean, like, he did all his action stuff in the 80s, and then he started going over to, like, comedies. What was he did? It was Junior, Twins, Danny DeVito.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know, the 90s were all the rage for, like, trying to get these big, like, action guys to do, like, dumb comedies or kid comedies or whatever.
According to IMDb, he started doing a lot of voice work and never looked back. So
Sinbad.
Through the 2000s and even today, he does a ton of voice stuff, but he doesn't do a lot of, like, in-person acting anymore. All this stuff says voice.
I mean, that's pretty... I mean, I won't say it's easy work, but I mean...
It definitely takes talent.
It takes talent to do that, but
right.
not as physical, so...
Right.
Yeah.
And still lucrative. So there you go.
Lucrative, yeah. If you're a good voice actor,
good
you
for
can do that forever.
you.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I just want to give props to Sinbad. You know, he was fantastic.
Well, I would say, too, like, and it's another fun fact, technically, but I saw where, like, he improvised a lot of his lines, and I'd wondered while watching it, just to be truthful, because there's a lot of things that slightly play like the race card in there, like, and not to say in a bad way, but, like...
Oh, that's one of my what age the worst.
Yeah, and it does, and it's just very much to the point that seeing it now,
right?
I'm like, who wrote these lines?
Right.
Because him saying it himself is one thing, and that's where I'm like, okay, I can appreciate that now.
Right.
But was there somebody in a writer's room
right.
that was like, let's throw this whole Rodney King thing in there, where it's like,
right.
this is so much bigger and more important than what you're joking about in this movie.
Right, right.
So as I found out later that Sinbad made up a lot of his lines, I was like, okay, like, coming from Sinbad, It's a little bit better than
Right,
some
like
random dude.
if he
writing it.
thought it would be funny at the bottom of this dog pile to be like, Rodney King,
Yeah.
King, then like if that's coming from him,
Yes.
then I would give it a lot more leeway,
Yeah.
as like a joke of its error. But if a white writer,
That's all I got to think. Some
wrote
old
that,
white dude sitting in a thing
and a
like,
white
writing it.
director told him to say that,
Yep.
and it was that, or like, then he becomes the guy that doesn't want to make waves. It's the 90s. And now that we know better, and we know that there used to be a lot of pressure, and
Sure.
maybe still is, to conform and to just say what's on the page, right? I've been listening to the One Tree Hill rewatch podcast, and they're very honest about some of the things as young female actors that they were asked to do by older adult males.
sure.
That they were like, this isn't how teenage girls act or sound or look,
Yeah.
and that it was very uncomfortable for them. And so, yeah, there was some things that were played for laughs that I was like, that would not be funny today.
Yeah.
In the context.
And so there was that part that made me think about those lines where I didn't feel like quite as like on edge about it. Still is not great. I'm not like saying it's great, but to know that, but then to know because of the way he acted, Arnold also improvised or improv whatever right back to it, to a lot of what he said. So it's like one of those things you would love to see what they really went back and forth with and how that played out. But I did think that was neat, and that was the takeaway that they could get that. Because you talk about Joe Pesci was looked at as a possible like character, or instead of Sinbad, him. And it's like, I can't see that at all. But it's because of what Sinbad brought to the character.
Right.
You could have put tons of people in that character, but it wasn't what Sinbad brought to the table. So I definitely think it holds up well for what he did and the quality of job he did to make that character come to
Well,
life.
and I think he did a great job of making Myron like villainous, but still funny.
Yeah.
But still sympathetic. Like he was juggling a lot of balls with that character
sure.
in the screen time he had, and I think he did a really good job. And I think that he and Schwarzenegger played well off of one another for the sort of the emotional roller coaster they had to ride between finding commonalities and like down moments and then being sworn enemies
Sure.
the next second and like just up and down, That was really interesting.
Absolutely. Nitpicks. Let's do nitpicks real quick before we go to favorite quotes and scenes. My nitpick, or what aged the worst, joking about bombs in the mail.
Yeesh.
That's a little not funny to me.
Right. Well, I mean, I think it is a fact to say that you can think of a lot of things as pre and post 9/11, right?
Yeah,
and so
for
this
sure.
is very
This is
pre 9/11.
Very pre 9/11.
And so, yeah, you can make jokes about bombs.
Well, this thing, too, is like I remember in our childhood, and again, this could be me from an adult thinking back on childhood. It could be something as simple as we saw this in movies so much that we're like, this is what's in the mail. But I feel like I do remember news stuff happening at the time
yeah.
because it was a lot more of mail thing. You heard about mail carrier
Right.
stuff.
I will say
Stuff
it was
like that.
it was played very like Coyote or Wile E. Coyote style.
Yeah.
Right.
He gets,
Right.
the Acme bomb or whatever just blows up in his face. And
Right.
he was, unharmed, thank goodness, because
Right.
that's how bombs work.
Blew a
They're-
ceiling tile.
Yeah.
down.
Yeah,
But-
they're harmless to people, but for
Right.
ceiling tiles, they're very deadly.
Right.
For me, also, we mentioned this earlier, Arnold has a family man named Howard Langston. Very what age the worst there. And then Ted's kid suggesting that divorce is a good thing, the best thing that ever happened to him. Maybe your parents should get a divorce. It's great.
I feel like you see that. Like, there's some other movie because I kept waiting for him to say it, but it's somewhere else because he doesn't say it. But it's like, it's great. You get 2 Christmases, you get 2 everything. Like, that's in another movie, and I don't remember which one it is, but I feel like it's another Christmas movie. But I don't know.
I thought maybe not a nitpick, but something that just didn't age well because of technology. Just how many payphones he had to use
payphone.
because cell phones didn't exist. So
Yes.
every time he had to call home and update on like where they were and what he was doing, he had to find a
He found a
payphone.
little
Yeah.
payphone in a little coffee shop there that actually had a door, like it was actually an actual booth.
Those existed.
Those
Yes.
existed.
Yeah.
I think I wrote something along the same lines of internet didn't. Like, I think it technically existed, but it's not in the way we know it now.
Not in the way we know it now. For
But I
Right.
think there's part of it that's like that's a fun part to maybe watch with like a younger generation
Hey,
to
this
be
is
like
how this is how we did Christmas 25
Right.
years ago, kids.
Right.
Yeah.
We killed each other at the mall.
That's right.
we still do somewhat, but some of us just buy
But
on
now,
Amazon
we just Amazon it. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
No email, no text messages, just the wild, wild west. You didn't know where someone was, what they were doing, how it was going.
This was 2 years before Wild Wild West came out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
Sorry.
Well, there's that scene too, like where they're standing on the street going back and forth, and some random dude comes running down the street, yelling to the person driving in the car. I always, as a child, thought he was talking to Arnold for some reason, but he's not. He's telling his buddy that's driving the car, like, just got word that so and so store, whatever across town, got an extra shipment. Let's go. Like, it was one of those things. It wasn't you're on social media and it's like
It was literally
update.
word of mouth.
Yeah.
Yep.
Somebody made, in the same way. They didn't call him. Like, they just worked, somehow somebody heard word of it. And I thought that was cool. One thing I wrote, and it's a nitpick, it's not so much didn't age well, but there's that scene in the mall where they have all the balls that they're throwing, like with numbers on them to get your chance to win. Arnold and Sinbad get hit in the face with at least like 20 to 30 balls. And it's like if you would open your eyes, you could catch at least 10. But they both jump, close their eyes, get smacked in the face,
Yep.
and then don't
Right.
get any.
It's like that ongoing like meme joke that the reason Harry Potter wasn't sorted into Ravenclaw is because he tried to jump and catch a letter out of the air instead of just picking one up off the ground
For
where it
sure.
had fallen.
Yep.
Yeah. What an idiot.
What a loser.
What a loser.
Oh, wow.
Gryffindors.
I know, right?
For sure.
For sure.
Yeah, we can
Hufflepuff
say
all
that.
the way.
We can say that because we're
Yeah.
Hufflepuffs and Slytherins.
What are some of your favorite scenes and or quotes?
One that related to me is our childhood was a scene. It's where they're in the living room where he's like, I'm Turbo Man. He's like, you're always Turbo Man.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, I see that. I literally wrote behind it.
Yes.
I'm the Green Ranger.
Yeah.
You're always the
You're
Green
always
Ranger.
the Green Ranger.
We had that argument in second and third grade. They're like, Eric, we want you to be the Red Ranger. I'm like, but I want to be the Grey Ranger.
I don't want to be the Red
Or the Black
Ranger.
I don't want to be the Blue Ranger.
Right.
Oh, wow.
I always wanted to be the Yellow Ranger, which I could always be because I was the one girl that didn't want to be the Pink Ranger.
Exactly.
No.
You didn't fight anybody for that.
Yeah.
I mean, poor Trini.
I was
Anyway.
definitely a tomboy. Pink's stupid. Pink's for girls.
Well, the Yellow Ranger didn't have a skirt either, so because
Exactly.
in Japan,
He was
the
a
Yellow
dude.
Ranger was a dude. But anyway, the parade scene was fantastic.
I literally paused it to catch all of the characters in costume.
Yes.
Because this, like, and I watched some research on it. I hope I'm not, like, ruining anybody's fun facts. But the parade was done at Universal Studios in Hollywood because they didn't think they could get everything done. I think it was in, like, April. So it was, like, hot. They're in Hollywood. They're using a set. And I was wondering, I literally Googled, how did they get the characters to be in this parade? And somebody else was saying, well, like, Hollywood Studios is right there. It's Universal, not Hollywood Studios. Universal Studios. Probably some of these characters came from there. Plus, they probably just have costumes all around. But I paused it and made notes. It's like, there's Leonardo's a Ninja Turtle walking down the street. And it's, like, all legit costumes. It's not like and I'm not bashing local people, but, like, the Kinley Parade. That's like, I'm glad this is at night. Because if not, you'd be twice as scary right now.
Yes.
Right,
Where
right.
it's like a knockoff
That's
version.
not Bugs Bunny.
No.
That's Bugs Bunny's drunk uncle.
Yeah.
Yes. It looks like the bunny from Donnie Darko.
Yes, 100%. But I made a note. It's like Leonardo, Barbie, there's crayons, Sock and Bop and Robots, Cat in the Hat, Snoopy, Bert and Ernie, Sonic, Paddington Bear, Cabbage Patch Kids, Gumby, The Tick. There's an Etch-a-Sketch walking down the street.
The Tick.
Yes, and it's like, I literally paused so I could make note of every person because it just made me so happy. It's like, that's part of my childhood walking on screen right now. Like, beyond anything Turbo Man.
Wait. Was it called the Wintertainment Christmas
Yes.
Parade because it was themed around entertainment
It could have been.
characters?
I will say, well, no, I'm not. I'm going to save this for one of my unanswered questions. So I'll
Okay.
Yes.
I love that
But the
parade,
parade
though.
scene, poor Booster, by the way. No one likes Booster.
No.
Oh my goodness. Which,
Oh,
to be
that
fair,
was the other thing
I don't
about
like
the
Booster.
the humor that didn't age well. That the guy who was the actor playing the dude playing Booster or whatever, he's been in a ton of things, and I think his lane is to play unlikable characters, right?
yeah.
But when he said, "Oh, he was smoking,"
Chain smoking.
yes, and he was like, you got me here sweating like a dog in a Chinese restaurant. And I was like, oh, we can't say that anymore.
No,
we can't say that anymore.
cannot say that
Also, this is a
anymore.
kids movie.
I did see online where anytime it aired on like TV, that's edited out. Like that
Oh,
line
wow.
is it's not on
Okay.
television.
Okay,
Good
good.
for them.
But it's on YouTube. Like
Good.
I saw it.
We're going to edit that out. There's just going to be a long beep while I'm saying that. I'm just kidding.
We'll see. As the person
Oh,
editing
man.
this, we'll see.
I feel like a beep inside of a beep.
Beep, beep, beep.
I've got two little like conversations for my quotes that I thought were just great. This is from the announcers at the parade, like the newscasters, or whatever. Lisa, it looks like Dementor has beaten Turbo Man. Oh no, this could be the end of civilization as we know it.
I love how
Like,
everyone
and
had a
it's so
script.
serious.
Yeah,
Like,
they
Yes.
had their part in it.
Yeah.
And then it's like, fly, Turbo Man.
And
Use
then
your
one of them would be
jetpack.
like, this isn't in the script, man. What are you
Yeah.
doing? Yeah.
And then Arnold, when he's at the knockoff toy warehouse, you guys are nothing but a bunch of sleazy conmen in red suits. What'd you call us? You heard me right. Conmen, thieves, degenerates, lowlifes, thugs, criminals. At the North Pole, them are fighting words, partner.
I'll say, like, just to continue on with that, it was one of my favorite scenes because somehow, as a child, as a giant wrestling fan, when you have this like huge Santa Claus that comes in without a shirt, I literally like marked out and was like, "That's the Giant! That's the Giant from WCW!" It's like in my childhood at that point, I'm like, wrestling's fully real. Why do they have him here? Like,
Oh, God.
who is this? And I remember looking at the credits trying to find the Giant, and it's like Paul Wright. Who's Paul White? Like, who is that guy?
Literally, when he came on the screen, I
Mm-hmm.
was like, they had to go to a pro wrestler to find someone
It
bigger
is.
than Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I was like, I'm not even going to look it up. I'm going to wait for Eric and Kyle to tell me who this guy
He's
is.
more so
The
known
Big
as the Big
Show.
Show now.
Okay.
And like he's the Big Show. He's had his own Netflix
He
show
was,
and
on,
everything
he
else.
was in The Waterboy as Captain Insano.
Yeah, he was.
God.
So I remember as a child though that kind of blowing my mind to be like where I fully believed wrestling was 100% real. Where it's like I didn't quite get that the Giant wasn't his real name. And also Vern Troyer is in this movie as the smallest Santa
Yeah.
Claus. He also is not marked. Like he didn't get credited title in this movie because he
Oh,
didn't
wow.
speak. And I think it was. We always look back as Mini-Me from like Austin Powers. It hadn't come
Right.
out yet, so we didn't know him yet. So
Yeah, that's true.
it's one of those things to go back and see now.
I laughed out loud at the beginning, and Eric put it in the opening intro where
Kids just quoting the
where
commercial.
where you can tell he's quoting the commercial because he goes through everything the toy has, and then he includes the some assembly required.
Because that was
Batteries
totally
not
Not
included.
included.
Yeah,
That's
that's
batteries
totally
not
something you would do
included.
as a kid, though. Like
Right, because that's how you knew what you wanted for Christmas is or your birthday or whenever you would watch these commercials in between kid shows. And honestly, like going back to what holds up, that huge rant that Sinbad gives about like toy companies turning kids against parents. And so like they realized that they didn't even have to market the parents, that all they had to do was market to
Yep.
kids during kids shows, and kids would bug the mess out of their parents
Man's
for
got a
stuff.
point.
And I was like, he has an excellent point.
He does.
You know, to the point I think now where we have a lot more updated legislation about how you can market to
Yeah.
children. But again, the wild, wild west of the 90s, you know, I remember watching
1998.
a plethora of commercials, and my parents would come home or whatever, and I would be like, I want the Etch-a-Sketch, and I want this thing that is like a spin
The
thing,
very
and then,
best thing of
and then I
all,
want like this paint
there's
thing
a
that spins
counter
around.
on this ball.
Yeah.
I wanted to
You
cry.
can beat your very best score. I see if you can jump a whole lot more.
I was like, and then it spins, and then it does this,
Mm-hmm.
and then it has this, and then you can buy extra wings to clip on it, and I'm sure they were like, oh man, what is happening?
And bop it.
I wanted Crossfire. I never got it, but those kids look like straight gangsters playing
Straight
Crossfire.
Right.
It was dark. It was hot, like with
I
fire
need the
shooting
Super,
everywhere.
I need the Super
Amazing.
Soaker 5000, Dad.
Yes.
And a Nerf crossbow, please.
Also, while you're at the store, I need Ninja Turtle cereal. It has a Ninja Turtle bowl in the front. And
And I know it's $6.99 and the Frosted Flakes are only $3.99, but
I know it tastes horrible, but I get to eat out of a Ninja Turtle bowl,
out of a
Dad.
bowl.
I would always ask for Cookie Crisp because it was chocolate chip cookies.
But same,
For
those commercials
breakfast.
got you.
Cookie Crisp. Oh, I remember.
Just follow my nose.
We were talking about that at work yesterday, like not quite sidebar, but like
When are we going to do a favorite commercials?
Oh
That's- I know.
man.
Oh my
or just
goodness.
even like slogans or like songs where it's just like, you know, Don't be sad. Get glad.
What?
Like we literally got said in the hallway yesterday with somebody. I was like, well, don't be sad about it. And somebody else spoke up like down the hall, like, get glad. And it's ingrained in your minds. And it's the same way
That's the power of Pine Sol, baby.
it is. And it's like, it's the best part of waking up. It's Folgers in my cup, where it's like, if I'm in the store on the coffee aisle, and since I don't have a sense of smell, I can't get, it's not worth my
What
money
was the coffee brand
to buy
that
some
had
big
was
things.
it JFG? Or
I don't know.
JFG? Like,
Oh, yeah.
really
Yeah.
weird commercial. I think
Yeah.
it was coffee or something.
I just remember like the snowman walking in the house and the fact that there was a nice warm cup of Folgers that like the snow
And it was
melted.
a
And it was a
man.
loving dad.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah.
No, but it was also one with the snowman, and he drinks the Campbell's tomato soup. And
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
The kid.
Yeah.
Anyway, when we do our 90s season, we'll definitely do an episode
For
just
sure.
on commercials.
Just on commercials,
So-
man.
Real quick, a couple like scenes were like quotes. Ted just had great lines in the whole thing, but there's one part that's like, Ted's got it all under control. And I'm like, Ted needs to calm the heck down.
Ted
Yeah.
needs to stop
Yeah.
talking in the third person. He's
Yeah.
not The Rock. Okay.
Also, you have later on, Arnold says, I'm not a pervert. I'm just trying to get a Toberman dog.
That did hold up well because at any time I feel like after the 80s, if there was a strange man in a kids play area, there were a bunch
Stranger
of moms
danger.
that were gonna come at you. Yes,
There's one line in here.
they
I
were
love
smacking him with the person.
I love lines in movies that are very much a throwaway line that is just so small that you probably miss it half the time. But it's the time when Sinbad's trying to run through the parade and he literally slams into a walking Christmas box. It's like a decorated person walking. It's a Christmas box.
The present, yeah.
He smashes into it. He's like, out of my way, box! And like slams into the ground. Where it's just like, I didn't catch it the first time. The second time, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Where he just slams his box. The end, once we know that Arnold is Turbo Man, yeah, Ted comes in. What's going on? He's like, Jamie's dad's Turbo Man. He's like, let's get out of here.
But Dad, you smell like
barf.
And then I also love how Rita Wilson does this really interesting thing where she realizes that Howard is Turbo Man, and she's like, Howard? And then she looks at him in the suit, and she's like, Howard? I was like, oh, okay.
Love the man in
Yeah.
uniform, do you?
Yeah.
And we have we've not even mentioned any of the cookies where he's like, oh, what's his real name?
Phil Hartman.
No, Arnold's actual name in this
Oh,
movie.
Howard Langston.
Howard.
Oh, yeah.
Howard. Liz's cookies are so delicious.
Oh, my God.
Who said you could eat my cookies?
Yes.
Well, he had
Put the
time to,
cookie down.
Is Liz there? No, she's in the shower, I think. You want me to go check? No.
No.
Yes. There was definitely some adult humor sprinkled in there.
There is.
that you only get, at
There's
a
part
certain
of,
age.
And there's part of it too, like, and I won't dive deep into it, but there's multiple storylines happening in this movie. It literally could have just been Arnold going and looking for a toy.
Right.
But you have
right.
Arnold looking for a toy. Also, this whole side deal with Sinbad and everything that's going on. Plus, Ted now comes into the picture. And it's not like Ted steals his wife away. Like, Liz never falls for Ted. She hates
Right,
Ted.
right.
But there's still this part of it that you're like, why is this guy here? He's still trying his best. And Liz technically doesn't, like, push him away. Like, she makes weird faces at him to make you know, like, I'm not leaving my husband for you type deal.
Right,
But
right.
still, like, there's this whole other story happening that makes the thing all move together, like, uniform. And so I do have to say I have respect for that and thankful for that, too, because there's so many movies that would have just been a sad dad going everywhere trying to find a toy.
Right.
Couldn't find it. And they add, just by adding all these characters, same way with him running into the cop multiple times, didn't need to happen at all. But it adds into it, like, random little funny moments that you get to
When
throw
you do
in
it
there.
over and over and over again, it becomes funnier each time
Mm-hmm.
until it doesn't. And then if you keep doing it, it'll become funny again. They hit the right amount of times him running into that cop without it getting old.
Well, even like the way they perfectly come back to the whole thing, where at the end he's like, "We could really use a man on the force like you, Turbo Man," and he turns around, he's like, "Thank you." Like,
He's like, sorry about this, and this,
And
this,
this.
Oh, yeah, and this.
and the bomb.
Yeah.
I'm not getting arrested. So,
but Sinbad
all right.
is.
But
so-
Sinbad is, yeah, because, anyway. Unanswered questions. I've got a few that are kind of just like tongue-in-cheek, not really unanswered, but like,
Is Ted's non-alcoholic eggnog really non-alcoholic?
good question.
I thought about it in the
Did
car
he drug the eggnog?
because he's trying to like get Liz. And he's like, "Hey, ever have some of my special non-alcoholic eggnog?" And it's like, "Oh yeah."
Conspiracies. Ashby's looking
I
at
mean, look, I
all
would not
disgusted.
put it past Ted. Ted, by the end of the movie, is
Yeah.
definitely gone past the
Well, you
line
see that
of-
Ted got the minivan in the divorce. Like, it's the wood panel minivan. It's like
Classic.
you're being a creep already. Now
Yeah.
you've got her in the van.
Right.
And now you want her just to have some of your special
Right.
eggnog? Like,
Right.
no, Ted.
Well, and this is also like, again, at a certain time where I feel like like she was definitely laying down as much as she could without being very like bold about it, that she was not interested, and he was not picking it up.
No.
And literally I was like, oh, I forgot he's gonna kiss her. Like, and I feel like now in movies it might not have even gotten to that part, you know, because it's just like, hey, maybe like take a hike, dude, or like
Yeah.
Well, all I
take
would
a
say
clue.
is, like, yes, she did everything she could to say no to him, but there was one moment whenever she's like, Ted, can you drive us
Yeah.
to parade?
That's
I felt like
true.
she
Yeah.
did that not
That's
for
true.
Ted,
No.
but to her
No,
Howard.
yes, 100%. Yeah.
So,
But also, I thought it was really interesting. It did seem more modern in a way. Like, again, I feel like the Ted character did kind of cross the line. Also, I feel like now, knowing what we know now, a male neighbor would never remove an apron like that from a woman.
Yeah, that
in
was
her
very creepy
own
to
home.
watch.
I was like, this is lit, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But what I thought was kind of interesting and like a modern twist is there are so many stories ad nauseum about predatory women preying on married men, and I thought it was a nice, like, refreshing turnabout that there was a predatory man instead, that there was like a single dude in the neighborhood trying to like get with, you know, one of the married women. Like, I just thought that was a refreshing kind of like gender swap.
For sure.
Yeah.
Speaking of alcohol, casually adding alcohol to your coffee. Gotta love kids' Christmas movies.
Look, I mean, who among us at Christmas time isn't
I did see, like,
supplementing?
There was like some backlash about that. I don't remember what it was. Random read when
my
I was
parents
looking.
were a little like, okay, this is a kids movie. Why are they adding?
Why are they drinking
Why are they
alcohol at the bar?
Irishing up their coffee there on Christmas Eve?
It's Christmas Eve.
They can't find a toy anywhere.
You'd be drinking too. I mean, why did belching reindeer become the norm in late '90s kids' Christmas movies?
True.
'Cause it's funny.
Okay.
I was going to do a fake
Unanswered
burp,
question
but I
now
decided
answered.
not to.
Okay. Wait, they saved Turbo Man for last in the parade. That's Santa's spot. Thank you. Oh wait, no, wait. Okay, never mind. This is the Wintertainment. Santa's not Wintertainment.
To be fair, I looked at it again because I watched it yesterday because I was home half the day, like with Sky when my mom wasn't there. And then I woke up at like 5 this morning, and while Erica was like feeding Sky, I was like, "Oh yeah, this is what we're doing the podcast on." And I started playing it all over again this morning. So by the time we got to the end, I was like, "Wait a second, is Turbo Man in front of Santa Claus? That's Santa Claus's spot."
But they
If
make
you
a
watch
reference
it,
that Turbo Man's the last thing in the parade.
but if
I'm
you
sorry.
watch the parade,
Turbo Man is the reason for the season.
that's true. But if you watch the parade,
True.
Turbo Man is leading Santa Claus into the parade. Santa Claus is behind Turbo Man.
Okay.
We just stopped the entire parade, though. So Santa Claus, I imagine, just takes a hard right, and he's like, dude's flying. I can't do nothing for this.
Right.
I
Santa
got-
Claus is like, I don't have a jetpack. What
I
is
have
happening?
peppermint candies that I
have
can
flying
throw.
Yeah.
reindeer, but they're not here because they're too busy
Yes.
belching in front of some.
I have these
Jerk's
hard
house.
candies that I can
Yes.
throw directly at your child's face.
I can throw little candy
I left
canes out.
comment at Ted's house. Sorry.
Yes. Okay, one more line.
Yeah.
Where's your mother? She's over at Ted's house, or ever petting Ted. Like,
Petting Ted.
Yeah.
Oh, that was funny. Where's your mother?
She's over next door petting Ted.
yeah.
She's what?
Hmm. Forget about that. You're not keeping your promises.
Oh,
That was some good acting.
for the last time, there was a sequel in 2014 with Larry the Cable Guy. Why? And then I did some research and I found out it's actually co-produced by WWE Studios and Santino Marella's in it.
saw
And
that.
I'm like, I still don't want to see that. Why?
Hey, everything about that.
Why haven't we gotten a flying Iron Man in the Macy's Christmas Parade if we got flying Turbo Man in the 90s?
Yeah, come on. Well, okay. That
Although,
was
to
a
be fair,
little bit
that-
of a jump the shark moment. I'm like, this technology, like, this is not.
It doesn't exist.
There's
Okay.
no way.
Okay, one thing I forgot to throw in there. Nitpick / whatever. Sinbad literally launched, like, missile fires his hand at Arnold. It flies back, lands, and he looks at it and wiggles his fingers. So that was literally his hand. It wasn't a robot thing. We
You've never
literally
done that before?
we broke the whole reality thing in that moment. Sure, jetpack breaks reality as well, but just like I remember, like the hand firing off and then coming back and landing, and he looks at it and wiggles his fingers again. It's like that was literally Sinbad's hand. Like as a child, you didn't catch that. You're like, of course, Power Rangers do it all the time. Like
And speaking of which, bring Turbo Man and Dementor to the MCU, you cowards.
for sure.
100%. Also, I went back just because sometimes they do like a little meta thing, and I wasn't paying attention to like the first 10 minutes of the movie really hard because I was trying to do something at the same time. And I went back and I thought it would have been hysterical if Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sinbad had played Turbo Man and Dementor in the opening
credits.
scene,
Yes,
like
that would've
just to
been
be kind of like
fantastic.
fourth wall breaking. And they actually had actors, and I was like, "Oh man, that feels like a missed opportunity. That'd be
Yeah.
hilarious."
All right. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Real quick. Fun facts.
Eric will be doing my fun facts on the
Okay.
account of I have no fun facts.
Cool. Well, did you realize you could buy a real Turbo Man action figure?
I did.
I did know that.
I've searched multiple times, and they're very expensive on eBay.
Well, here's the thing. The movie company rushed to create real Turbo Man action figures to be sold in Walmart alongside this movie. They sold for $25, and only 200,000 were made. And think of how many got like broken when they got. So,
As I say, I'm picturing like in the Santa factory where all the parts, just like his head comes out of the box and it's all like
and
broken
then,
up.
And then for my fun fact, Sinbad says that he had a prototype of the Dementor doll. But quote, they said, "Give it back and we'll get you the real one when it comes out." And dude, it never came out.
They took his vault back.
They took
Rude.
Ashby earlier today shared Funko Pops where they have made them this year.
Yeah.
So cool, and I want them.
Yeah, I
Funko
found that.
also has released a Turbo Man doll,
I was like,
full in the
that's
box,
very cool.
only available at Walmart. I Googled it today. It said pick up today in Smithfield. I didn't have time. I ran out of time. I was literally going to Walmart today to go buy a Turbo Man doll.
That would have been amazing.
And I was going to hide it in Eric's closet, and I was going to do the whole, like, he's been in the closet the whole time, like we've been doing, and then open it, and Turbo Man's in the hall.
I would have freaked out. That would've
Our
been
guest
so
tonight,
cool.
here he is.
Turbo Man.
Wow.
Turbo Man himself. Come on out.
I talked myself out of it. It's $35 to
Yeah,
buy
that's
him.
kind of a.
$35.
He's big, like he's Power Ranger size in his box, just like in the movie. The only difference is instead of like whatever the toy company was, like Tiger Electronics, it says like Funko. It also says like a little Walmart sticker on there, and I think it says Jingle on the Way on the back.
I know
but,
Turbo Man fought Dementor, but he didn't fight Lord Zed. Okay, he's not anything like a Power Ranger.
but don't put it
Sorry.
past me. Like the next time I'm in Walmart, if I see it, I'm going to fight. Like
They
I
even
will
had the
battle
little
myself. to buy
putty
it.
men, the little like.
Yeah. And so like I'm looking the next time I go.
So weird that his brain is out. I don't like it. I don't
Sorry.
There's
like
actually some comic lore there.
For those that don't know, like Eric just handed Ashby his Lord Zed Funko Pop. Like just commenting about brains being out. It's a little odd.
That's
But-
an actual character, not like any
Yes.
kind of, it's like
But anyway,
any kind of verbastic.
I tried to run by
This
today.
is not good that this is not a visual medium right now.
I
The
literally-
brain is out.
I was trying to run to Walmart today, and the inner fender of my car blew out, so I had to stop on the side of the highway. I didn't make it. But there was the other part that was like, if we were a visual show, I would be late and run to Walmart. But again, I was like, this is going to be really fun for the three of us
Right, right.
that nobody's going to get to see. And then what am I going to do with it
Yes, I
later?
know, we're
But there's still the part of me that I have a shelf at home with like Ninja Turtle toys on that I'm like, Turbo Man would fit up there just fine. So if I run across him in person, I may pick up a Turbo Man. And if so, we'll be sure to release him because right now it's still the end of October. And so this episode hasn't quite released soon. So
Maybe, well,
You could do like a special
I was going to say
Facebook Live.
Well, maybe when we do a special Facebook Live, like that could be like a prize we give away.
I'm not giving away Turbo Man.
Okay, fine. I was going to say you give them to me. That would be a giveaway.
No. Maybe we'll buy two.
Is
Like,
that how it works?
I don't know. I was going to look to see if they had Funko Pops of it too, though. And then Ashby shared that picture today on Instagram. So I still would look.
Cool deal. Fun facts for you?
Sure. Phil Hartman made up a backstory for his character. So Ted has a backstory, according to Phil Hartman. He said Ted was probably joking for the film's official product. Well, no, I think Hartman says he was joking for the production notes, but you never know. But Phil Hartman said Ted is a guy who sued his employer for headaches caused by toner fumes and now hangs around the neighborhood and helps all the housewives. Hartman said, and he's also offered to take on. Oh, sorry, my microphone's in front of my screen. Here we go. He also offered to take on how he was kind of being pigeonholed in Hollywood when he added, Ted's another weasel, to add to my long list of weasel characters that I play.
See, he knows.
That's true. Look, at least, again, your lane. You know your lane. Stay in your lane.
Owns it. Cool. All right. Any more fun facts, or we're good to move?
I'll throw one in.
One more, okay.
It was about the suits. I do have the DVD, and I guess I have like a special edition because they go literally and like show you how the suit was made and everything else. But the tight-fitting suits for like Turbo Man that they wear in the movie was created. First, they took like a mold of the body, so it was Schwarzenegger, and I think Ryden is his last name, is the stuntman first, also the main character in the beginning of the movie as Turbo Man. It said they cast rubber into it so they would fit properly into their suits. They also had a cooling system built into the suit so they wouldn't overheat. It says there's very thin membrane vests that are filled with small plastic tubing that is tightly coiled back and forth, and they run super cold water through it. So when they run it, it's like cold water right up against your body, and it was amazing. So we think about that. You think about some, even like maybe characters at Disney World or some other places. At some point they started maybe adding a fan into like the Chick-fil-A costume at Chick-fil-A. But no, this was like full-blown water, like cooled suits. I also saw where Sinbad's suit evidently didn't. And like whenever he was dressed as Dementor, he had this like giant head thing on. It was like a brain with water in it. And it said it got so hot that like the water was boiling inside the suit, the prop head.
Oh,
so he got real hot. It doesn't sound like he got the cooling suit the same way the other guys did.
I think now modern, like the DC guys on the shows, I think their suits have that cooling.
I would think
thing.
so.
Yeah.
Especially if you're like, because the same way we look at it, like we think this movie, like it's pretty, it's winter, but actually it's like April or May in California. Like it's probably warm while you're wearing these like super,
Honestly,
moldy rubber suits.
when you say it like that, it doesn't sound as appealing, to be, almost as unappealing as the fact that Turbo Man was almost called Turbo Guy.
Turbo Guy.
Turbo Guy! It's Turbo time from the Turbo Guy!
Yes, Turbo Man, the fictional hero made up for the movie, was almost going to be called Turbo Guy. He could have also been the Turbo or Turbo Tom. They knew they wanted to be Turbo something. They just didn't know the rest. So they apparently went through every option imaginable before they finally realized that Turbo Man was about as good as it gets. So,
Well, I'd say it's a good choice. I mean, Iron Man, Batman.
So, yeah.
It's the obvious choice.
Absolutely. Well, those are our fun facts.
I checked. We don't have any social media shout-outs.
Wonderful. Well, we're running out of time. Let's go ahead and get to the end. A big thank you to Ricky Lyles for his contributions to today's episode. We hope you enjoyed this discussion as much as we did, and that you're as pumped for the rest of this journey in the pop culture as we are. We are out of time on today's episode, so why don't you guys hit them up with some last-minute plugs?
So, just so you guys, I know you're following the social on the, for the actual podcast, but we are also doing a lot of posting on our other social medias. So, again, I'm Ashby. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Ashby Gray. That's Gray. Yes, that's my real middle name. And also, we had a fun little idea. Eric had a fun idea to plug, some charities that we're into or that we have recently given money to or whatever. And so I would like to take this opportunity to plug In the Backlog, and you can find them at endthebacklog.org.
Nice. Obviously, I'm Kyle Whitley. You can find me. I'm mostly on Instagram. I'm not really on Twitter ever, but it's _live_bright_. I don't necessarily have a charity that comes right to mind, but something that I did get this week. Otis Frampton put out the volume number 4 of his comic series, Oddly Normal. He had to put it out on a Kickstarter. I want to say it was 2 years ago that he started the Kickstarter. So I joined on because I got the first issue on Free Comic Book one day. I think I even talked about it on our comic book series we talked about. Mm-hmm. And so coming into the 4th one, he started a Kickstarter to help get the money to fund it and to put it out there. In the midst of it, he had a brain tumor. He had multiple issues where it got delayed beyond just COVID. But he has officially finished it now. It's in stores now, in comic stores all around. If you do look in the special notes, my name does appear in there as a contributor. Nice. So it's very awesome. But I did get it in the mail this week, and I also got like a drawing and everything else along with it. But definitely, if you've never checked out Oddly Normal, it's definitely a very fun comic book. It's, I want to say, almost all age friendly. It's just something fun to do. And like I said, number 4 just got put out in the last couple of weeks. So check it out if you haven't.
Nice.
And I'm Eric Creech. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at EricOMac15. That's Eric OMAC15. And my special shout out is going to go to Xavier Woods, aka Austin Creed. He is a WWE wrestler / YouTube personality on the Up Up Down Down channel. Also is a host on G4. And for those of you who aren't very into the wrestling world, Xavier Woods, Austin Creed, whatever, he's just been a favorite of mine for many, many years, and he's had this dream to bring back the King of the Ring tournament through WWE, and he wanted to win it and become king, the champion winner. And they actually brought it back this year. He was in the tournament, and today he actually won the finals. He said it was a lifelong boyhood dream of his to win the King of the Ring. So you can follow him at Austin Creed Wins, and just give him a congratulations. Since that's his boyhood dream, I'm not going to go that deep and say my boyhood dream was to interview him or talk to him on a podcast, but it is my adulthood dream to one day get him on a podcast or to appear on one of his social media things. So I'm going to tag him, and maybe y'all could tag him in some of our social media stuff and see if we can get that to happen, because I think that'd be really cool. But congratulations, Austin Creed, a.k.a. Xavier Woods, on your King of the Ring victory. Be sure to join us next week for our discussion on controversial Christmas movies. A quick explanation of that. You have your movies that are obviously Christmas movies, Jingle All the Way, Santa Claus.
Rudolph.
Rudolph, yeah. But then you have some movies that could not, they're classified possibly as Christmas movies, but they might not be. Think of like your Die Hards.
Batman Returns.
Harry Potter.
Some would even argue Home Alone as a controversial Christmas movie. These are movies that aren't necessarily directly related to Christmas, but might have Christmas as a backdrop, or as part of the scenery or whatever. You can define it ever how you want to, but these are movies that are controversially Christmas movies. So we're going to talk about those movies next time on the podcast. This has been the What the What Podcast. Stay as cool as the other side of the pillow. Tell them bye, ladies and gentlemen. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
What the what?
I'll be back.